Hey guys, welcome back to Good Morning Marketers. I'm really excited today. I'm joined by the amazing Tasha T.
Hello.
Who is a digital marketing manager here at Mitchell & Stone. He's been with us since
2018.
Well, our inception.
Yeah, day one.
So welcome to the hot seat, Tash.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about Good Morning Marketers, an aspect of our B2B framework that we use for our clients, which is what we call the 3 key pillars of successful B2B marketing. And that centers around brand growth, human positioning, and opportunity generation. So today we're going to be focusing on human positioning. And the reason I invited Tash on is because she does a lot of human positioning work with clients that we have here at Mitchell & Stone. So Tash, just to kick it off then, I suppose in your own words, what is human positioning to anyone who doesn't have a clue what it is?
The human positioning key pillar, I would probably say, is one of the most important, especially on the B2B side. I think that lead generation and brand growth kind of make sense within themselves. And often human positioning is the one where people say, what actually is that?
Yeah.
And it's important for us to allow the B2B clients to understand that their people are just as important as their brand and as their leads. And especially as a long-term, marketing activity, it's something that can be really powerful for them as a business if they're leveraging their people in order to bring the results in alongside the brand growth and the lead gen.
And so how does that work logistically then? So obviously I know we talk about human positioning and LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah.
So just going down another layer on that. So what does human position look like day to day and in real life?
I would say that the main component in this day and age is the LinkedIn piece. I think that's huge, especially if you've got a large team.
Yeah.
And it's really important that you're using your team and educating them on the potential of LinkedIn. A lot of people haven't even used LinkedIn yet, or they do use it, or they have an account, but they don't actually do anything with it. And it's that education piece, once they understand what they can do and what the potential of it really is, not only for them as individuals, but also for the business that they work for, that they can really start bringing in results. So I think that it's all down to the sort of daily discipline as well, because it can be hard to bring it into your routine. But once you're doing it repetitively and you're doing it regularly, and it's really good value content, you're not just putting it out sort of for the sake of it, and you're really thinking about the message that you're trying to portray, that's when it can really have an impact over a long period of time.
Yeah, for sure. So what I want to do, Tash, if it's right, because I know we kind of live and breathe this, is I want to start with the why we're doing it. Mm-hmm. So which is essentially, we talk about like who our audience is, how powerful LinkedIn is, kind of B2B, understanding who our decision makers are, etc.
Yeah.
Then I want to kind of reverse engineer that into what we call activities and daily behaviours.
Yep.
Actually, one layer before that, let's talk about types of content, etc., what we're trying to do with that. And then we're going to go a step further into activities and daily behaviours, in terms of actually building a plan for this.
Yeah.
So objective-wise, why would we even do it in the first place?
I think it's really important to remember that people want to buy from people. And especially in this day and age, your online presence as a brand and the people that are involved in that is like your digital storefront.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about the death of the high street and all of that. And that means that all of that activity is moving online. We're digital marketers. We understand that. It's really important that the feet on the street within your business understand that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that it's all about leveraging your people as experts, because if they're identified as experts, then that's automatically attributed back to your brand as well,
For sure. And something we talk about quite a lot is about attracting the right eyeballs, isn't it? So when you let's take an accountancy practice, for example, right?
Yeah.
They probably usually work with or usually speak to from an initial engagement, maybe the owner of the business, the managing director, etc., maybe at an SME level. Now, if that accountancy practice, for example, works within some specific industries, let's say engineering, manufacturing, transport, logistics, those industries.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big thing for us is, we can identify who the decision makers are, I suppose, within those industries, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say it's the managing directors, and they usually work at companies that have at least 50 employees. Mm-hmm. Now, when you're saying things like, positioning as the expert, etc., what we're really talking about there is obviously attracting eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
But the right eyeballs. Because if the right people are seeing our content and we're nurturing them over time with high quality, engaging content, in theory, if we do this right, it should pay dividends in the form of new conversations with new potential clients, all that kind of stuff, right?
It gets to the point where you're at that level of authority. We have something here called the authority thermostat. And once you're at the top of that, the idea is that you're actually going to start having inbound interest.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all leading to. So
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it might be a bit of a forward investment in terms of your time and your effort at the beginning, but once you've built yourself up and built your personal brand and your expert authority to that level, you will have people in your DMs.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you think, Because I think sometimes when businesses look at this, they'll put a few posts out and be like, I didn't get anything from it, so why am I going to bother? So why is this something that we just need to keep doing?
Yeah, look, it is difficult to quantify, and building a powerful network and connecting with those people is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not the same as like an email campaign or something that is direct to that person. Every post that you see, you need to remember, not everyone in your network sees that. The LinkedIn feed selects what they see. So it's really important that you are posting regularly and your content is not only of high value, but also relevant to the network that you're building, because that's when they're more likely to see it in the first place. And then if they engage with it, they'll obviously see it again.
Yeah, for sure.
But they have to see, for a long period of time, that quality content to almost like subconsciously tell them how expert you are. It almost is like a passive thing. To the point where when we talk about the inbound interest and we talk about that magnetic attraction, as soon as the problem that you solve occurs in their life, they won't even need to search for the solution. They'll already think of you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes people forget that when you create content, invest time in creating that content, and you deploy that content consistently.
Yeah.
I think people forget there are people who, yes, you might be able to see them in a sense of them engaging with those posts, liking, commenting, etc. But I think the one thing that we don't think about is who almost like our ghost followers are, in a sense of who's watching and consuming our content all the time.
Yeah.
But they're just not engaging with it, right? Because it's amazing how when you're consistent with that content on things like LinkedIn, how people who don't know you get to know you without knowing you.
100%. And
for me, like I think that's where the value is, because it's interesting, because sometimes you might get an off the cuff phone call. And someone will be like, "Hi, Josh. Yeah, so I've been watching your content online, and I just want to have a conversation about marketing on kind of these specific areas, whether it's like SEO, etc. And you mentioned this in another video, and we've been struggling with this. And what's interesting is the when you think about when you start a relationship with someone, or also not start a relationship, when you initially speak to a stranger, like there's always that weird bit at the start where it's like, "Hi, you're right. Yeah, fine, you." And you're kind of breaking out of that stranger vibe mentality, almost like obscurity kind of thing, to the point where you feel comfortable with someone.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the great benefits of posting content on LinkedIn consistently and then engaging with the people who are kind of consuming that content is when you do end up in a discussion with them or a conversation, it's almost like you've just missed that bit, because they already feel like they know who you are before they've actually spoken to you.
Do you know, it's funny that you say that, actually, because I was listening to a podcast recently where I found out that the human brain, and this was huge during the lockdown and everything, where everything moved to the virtual world, the human brain cannot actually differentiate between real human interaction in real life and a video.
I completely agree.
So, and it isn't possible. It's not how the human brain works. So if someone has seen multiple videos of you talking to camera, speaking directly in the way that you would if they were literally in front of you, except you're speaking to camera and then they're receiving that content, they will feel like they already know you. And that's where the whole people want to buy from people, human connection is such a big part of sales.
I could agree more.
And that's where it all starts. It's like the first it's the first seed.
Yeah, completely. And I think like, I think some businesses take the approach, it's what, I mean, we kind of look at this as like a nurturing activity as opposed to like a hard, right bang, 2 posts, 2 leads kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's no formula.
And so like, do you mind us explaining, I suppose, in your own kind of words, like the difference between like a long-term growth activity, which I suppose we think LinkedIn falls into,
definitely,
as opposed to like a short-term sales activation activity?
Yeah, I mean, I completely appreciate that for, business owners, it can be difficult to see the difference. And there is a level of patience that has to come with those long-term marketing activities. But if you have the patience and you can kind of see the end goal, then it's much easier to work towards that. Something that would be short-term marketing would be like paid ads or like an email. Someone can directly reply to that email. Someone can directly click on that ad there and then, job done. But, with the longer-term strategies, anything to do with long-term brand growth, or these long-term human positioning objectives that you might be trying to meet, it isn't, like, as you say, 2 posts, 2 leads. It isn't that. And as long as you go in with the right expectations, you'll be all aligned on the goal that you're trying to meet. And then after time, you will start seeing, like I say, this inbound interest. People will know who you are when you meet them. Maybe you'll go to events and people will say, "Yeah, I've seen your LinkedIn." You'll start hearing it, and you'll start seeing it in your daily life that it really is making a difference. And even for prospects that are falling into other funnels that you've got going, they might have already seen your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So it might be that you've then got a leg up on another campaign that you're already running.
Yeah.
Because they'll already know who you are. So then it's effectively not even cold outreach because they already know you.
Yeah, completely.
Or at least feel like they do.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. And I think like zooming out even further, this is one of the reasons why I think some businesses might see LinkedIn as a short-term activity in the sense of if we're going to do some stuff on that, we need results back almost instantaneously or within a very short time frame. Is because the overall marketing strategy is not being looked at holistically.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we're not actually bringing structure into the organisation around, okay, what are our streams that we're using to actually keep our pipeline full?
Yeah.
So these are our short-term sales activities, right? So they're the stuff that keeps our pipeline full. Okay, yes, that needs to happen. We all need to win business. We all need to keep the lights on, etc. And I think because everyone focuses on that aspect, we don't look at the stuff where it's, okay, well, how do we actually invest in growing a brand, growing our people, like you said, actually getting them to know who they are, get them to be perceived as credible, perceived as trustworthy, etc. Because of the long-term knock-on effect of that is, yes, like you said, inbound opportunities, but the scientific kind of formula to that is it means that we win customers and clients, our cost per acquisition drops. Because we're not have to spend so much money over here on Google ads, email campaigns, you know, if you've got salespeople that are driving here, there and everywhere, all that stuff, which is money, in theory, we're strong enough in the marketplace where people start gravitating towards us, right? Which is kind of the holy grail of this. Now, obviously, we spoke about kind of why to do it, you know, what we're trying to achieve from it. Now, logistically, day to day, you know, because we kept this very high level, we should be posting on LinkedIn, etc. Like, how does that look day to day of an organisation, and who within the business should be doing it?
I think who within the business, I would say, I mean, what makes most sense is that your salespeople, like if they're the people that are going on those calls, as we say, in terms of people feeling like they already know them, those are the people that you want to be at the forefront. But in an ideal world, everyone, you know, in an ideal world, as many members of your team as possible, so that you're getting your brand to as many people as possible. Each of those people are vehicles, and each of them can have, you know, a really powerful network around them of people, as you say, even ghost followers, people that don't necessarily engage but know who you are and therefore know who your business is and what you guys do. And I think that the more people you've got, the stronger those objectives are going to be, and the easier it's going to be to hit them quickly. If everyone is on board. But I do appreciate that what can be difficult is getting everyone on board, and it is, you know, starting from scratch with something like this and really getting it into your daily routine. So that's where the daily behaviors come in, and setting, even though there isn't necessarily a numerical formula to this, setting at least a numerical goal for the week or the month or however you and your business want to do it. You know, typically we would say 3 posts a week, and you might have some kind of accountability structure there to help your team to hit that. But it's really important that we're not focusing on the amount of posts, but actually the quality of those posts. Because if you're posting 3 posts a week that aren't bringing value to your network, then you're not going to meet those objectives. So I would definitely say it's important to identify the problem that you solve, identify the pain that you know your prospects are potentially going through, and have that at the forefront of your messaging. You know, you don't want to be preaching about your benefits and your features. You want to be explaining to people why you're going to take their pain away. And that mixed with a bit of your personality, you know, and a bit of your individuality as well. Because as we say, that is part of this too, is what's going to allow people to not only see you as an individual, but also to understand the problem that you solve and why they should work with you.
Could not have said that any better, Tash. Absolutely right. No, completely agree. And I mean, you mentioned there as well, like accountability structure. So do you want to just kind of touch on that a little bit, like, and maybe how the dial moves from like ultimate accountability to just a bit of accountability, etc. Because you mentioned like the hardest thing sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to start. Okay, great. You got to the point where you started, but how often do we hear stories of like, we did it for a bit, we did it for a few months, and it just we kind of just stopped doing it, etc.
Yeah, and it's stories like that where, you know, unfortunately you might see people's marketing activities and potentially their sales kind of going like peaks and troughs. If they're starting things and letting them trail off, letting stuff fall off a cliff, it is something, as I said before, that needs to have an element of patience, needs to have that understanding that it is a long-term goal.
Consistency as
and
well.
Yeah, you need that consistency. You need to be able to like see forward. You need to be able to see the end goal and understand that it's probably quite far away, but that you need that consistency to get there.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back down to expectation setting as well. If you're setting the correct expectation with your team, not only from the accountability side, so we expect you to do 3 posts a week, we'll be holding you accountable to that, but also the expectation setting of the results that you expect to see from it. And if they understand that it isn't going to be an immediate overnight thing, then I think they'll be more likely to get on board. But it does depend on the relationship that you have with your team as well. If you have team members that are absolutely fine with being effectively told off that they haven't done it, then you can have that full accountability. But if everyone is really on board for the end goals and the mission that you're trying to do and the way that you're trying to leverage your brand, especially on board with that kind of holistic approach that you might be trying to take, everyone at the end of that will be better off. The business, the people within the business. So if everyone's on board, they should want to do it. It shouldn't be that you're like battling against them.
I agree with you. And just to be clear, guys, what this isn't, by the way, is just saying to all your staff, everything the company puts out on their company LinkedIn channel, just share it. That is not what this is about at all. I think the big highlights for me from this is remembering as a professional who might work for an organisation or might work for yourself, etc., is understanding not who is the audience who is just engaging with you, but who is the audience that brings the most value to you and your organisation, especially if you're in a revenue generation and kind of role with BD, sales, etc., right? It's remembering the audience of the business, right? So, and if that happens to be managing directors in engineering, logistics and transport and manufacturing, remembering, okay, well, how do we actually stop looking at the world through our lens and how do we kind of flip this 180 and start looking at the world through their lens and understanding within their shoes, what do they go through day to day and what value can we create which is going to resonate with them the most? Because ultimately, it's all well and good engaging an audience over here who has nothing to do with me, you, business, my development, your development, my professional career, your professional career. Like, just because we can engage an audience doesn't necessarily mean it's the right audience.
No, well, that's when you fall into vanity metrics, isn't it? Unfortunately. And that's where you do need to be careful, because it is a social media platform at the end of the day, but it's also a business platform. And I think it's important to get that balance right. And when I talk about, injecting a bit of your personality, that is important, but it's equally as important as keeping that level of professionalism and understanding who you're talking to. You're not talking to your friends. You're not talking, like, as you say, to the people that just happen to engage with your content. You need to be talking to Mr. or Mrs. Prospect.
Completely
and making sure that the network that you're building alongside the content that you're putting out is those people that you want to be talking to. They won't necessarily just find you. That's not really how it works. So alongside your posts, you may want to be connecting with, say, 10 to 20 people a week and making sure that those people that you're sending your connection requests to are the people that you want to effectively be prospecting to.
Yeah, completely. And I think as well, like, just kind of wrap this up really, it's like, I think there's a lot of different opinions around what kind of makes great personal branding and what doesn't, and I've always been of the belief, rightly or wrongly, that likes, I've got friends who get hundreds, if not thousands of likes, hundreds, if not thousands of comments, but at the end of the month, they're no new clients, they're struggling for business, etc. But we're living in this almost like dopamine fueled world of, I've got a load of engagement, and it's back to what I was saying about the audience. Engagement is great, and we should celebrate that because it means our content's good. The question is, who are we engaging?
Exactly.
And why are we engaging them?
And that's where you need to keep your measure of success at the forefront of this.
And I suppose it's almost a bit of a commercial awareness around it as well, right?
Definitely.
But guys, look, that's kind of it for today on kind of Good Morning Marketers. Once again, really summarising this, and I'm sure there's been a million different opinions around what's right to do and what's not right. What am I trying to say?
Not the right thing to do?
Not the right thing to do. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, quite tongue-tied. But guys, look, it'd be good to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment on the whether you watch this on YouTube, Spotify, etc., wherever you're consuming this podcast. It's a huge topic, and one I think there's going to be a lot more opinions and developments of this as time goes on. I think we're still very, very early doors with this whole personal branding thing, and actually businesses adopting it and actually understanding how does this actually feed the wider objectives of the business, as well as actually the individual networks of individuals. And I think the last thing I'll say on that is, because I think I see it quite a lot in digital marketing world, is whenever a digital marketing world might be looking at, digital marketing agency might be looking at employing a a developer or a growth manager or a BD person, etc. One of the interesting things I see a lot of them actually focusing on is not just the individual they're hiring, but it's who do they know. You know, and so it is one of the most powerful tools that if you leverage this correctly, you will not only be highly attractive to employers, but you will be highly attractive in the sense of like, if you want to set up by yourself and do stuff, you know. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Welcome and thank you for listening to Good Morning Marketers. Tasha Turnbull, always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time. Cheers, guys. Thank you.